I'm Davorin Anton Dumancic. I come from company Magis, and I'll be talking about. Oh, I'll just get there, not to be in the way. I'll be talking about our SkyFlow platform. It's a platform for document and business management. Uh, so we'll have a look at some of the solutions on the platform, on a couple of applications we have ready to be rolled out, and some client stories that you can see how it's used in real life. I didn't have a slide about me, so I'm in Magis for 10 years. I've been doing document management and process management for 15 years or something like that, and I've been developer, since I was a kid. So a lot of experience, a lot of different experience from development to the managing to consulting and stuff like that. So this doesn't seem to work for me, but just give me a second. For those of you who haven't heard of Magis, development company for 10 years, as I said, we do all kind of development and consulting from web production line automation, but we do focus on document management and business process management. This is our core. Our clients come mostly from the real sector, from smaller companies to the enterprises. Some of the most known here locally, Dukat Podravka. Actually, Dukat is a part of Lactalis Group, which is the world's largest dairy product manufacturer, and we do handle document management for their group in Southeastern Europe. Lots of others, you can see it in the conference material later on. So about our platform, it's for document and business process management. We created this platform a couple of years ago. Actually, some of the solutions found on this platform are much older, so we had this experience of knowing how these solutions work in a production environment, what are the good things, what are the bottlenecks, what are the client's use cases, and which we want to focus on. So we try to implement that in this platform. So first of all, we try to do easy business digitalization. As I said, we started this 3 years ago. Budgets were much lower, and we need to be cost effective, and be able to implement it really soon. Most of the, if you know statistics about document management, still most of the data is in papers, around 70-80% of that. So the biggest goal is just to bring their information from paper to IT system and have its system do some full text search or properties and stuff like that, so you can find the information easier. People usually spend 25 to 35% of searching for information in their work, so that's a lot of cost. So if you can just lower it a bit, you can save a lot of money for your company. So this is for digitalization. We try to do the same thing for business processes, just to be able to push out processes really quickly, just to have them in production, have them used by the company, and then just customize them later when you know how the things are going on in your company. We have some ready-made solutions, ready-made applications for the most common use cases, and we try to do a lot about user empowerment. What does that mean? Most of the features in the system can be configured in the application itself. So users can create processes, can create digitalized archives and everything without the need for an external company, for without the need for any kind of coding and stuff like that. And last not the least, we wanted to bring this solution to smaller companies. Document management and process management projects usually are bigger projects for bigger companies. And with the AWS, and being able to afford the same infrastructure for much lower cost, we try to do the same for our solution for small companies, starting from 5, 10 users, persons in the company, just to be able to use the same kind of application the big companies do. So our SkyFlow package, or platform, as you may wish to call it, consists of 4 major applications. First is SkyDoc portal. It's used to create digital archives in an easy way. I'll have a slide on each of that application and some use cases later on, so you can see how easy it is to use them. Then we have accounts payable. This was the most common process to implement in most of our clients because everybody has invoices and everybody need to process them. So optimizing that is something of a common need in the organization. A little bit bigger is orders go. This is something that precedes the accounts payable. It's basically the same process. If you have an invoice, you probably have an order request, validation, and stuff like that. And when you buy something later on, you get an invoice and you start accounts payable. We use this separate application just to have the whole process at one place. So if you, buy a computer, you could see who requested it, who ordered it, approved it, and stuff like that. And then it's easier to validate the invoice itself. And the 4th application is SkyFlow. It is titled the same as a platform. It's a generic process management solution. So it's something that we tried for companies just to draw processes, deploy it quickly, and try it. So we would eliminate BPM specialist role, somebody that is skilled in BPM just to implement it. And then we have other, modules and smaller applications, but these are 4 major ones. So I'll just go quickly through the application themselves. So Sky Portal is all about quick and easy management of the digital archives. When you create a digital archive, what you need to do, you need to create a class of a document, per document type, have some properties on that document, have somebody enter the data, and then archive that specific to some rules of your company and some authorization scheme. So everything here can be done using wizards and, simple user interface. When they are entered, you can search upon it on the properties or most commonly full text search. So you can just scan the document, put it in the system, and then use a full text search in the same manner as you would search web using the Google. There are some more options. Case management, dossier management. It's all about grouping even more data, based on some common properties. For cases, dossiers is usually for partners, just to have all of the partners' documentation in one place. So you can search upon it more easily. That's the most common case, okay? And there is integration with other applications, incoming mail, HR, and some other smaller things. So on the process side, the second application is accounts payable. So for automating approving invoices, and it's a much larger process. Our application focuses on that green part on an approving stage, because this is the most time-consuming part of the process. If you don't have application, then usually people just take a piece of paper, invoice, and just walk through an organization and get signatures and stuff like that. If it's a small company, it's okay, but if it's a little bit bigger company, then it usually means a lot of processing days for each invoice. And that, this is all a cost-consuming job, and usually nobody keeps track of them. So your employees are using a lot of time just to move paper around, and it doesn't see, you cannot see that cost anywhere in the organization. It's not just about moving paper around. It's also, for a bigger organization, it's about standardization of the process. You don't usually, if there are several organizational units or maybe even companies, everybody wants to approve invoice by their own way. This usually means writing some stuff on the invoice itself, and it's usually meaningful only to them. Using the system, you have the process in the standard way that is transparent, and then it's easily to be reviewed upon. Also, once the invoices are in the system, you had warnings for each approval, for deadline, so there is no excuse not to approve or disapprove any invoice that is delegated to you. And some common document management stuff, handling sensitive information in an appropriate way. Once it's in the system, the document or activities will be shown only to the appropriate users. And the good thing is, if you still receive the paper invoices, you can just archive them if you need it immediately, and then you just everything in a digital way. How does this process works? So it's pretty standard. Once you get the paper document or something from the invoice gateway or email, process starts with technical validity check. Sometimes invoices are not technically correct. Usually some part of legal information is missing, but if it's good, invoice is populated with the data. We do all kind of integration with ERPs here, and the main part is this bigger part where the invoices is validated. After that, it's booked and it's archived. So this validation, I have a next slide on this. How does the system work? And this is where it's customized in most part. So our system have built-in templates for approvals. So once you have invoice and you know the properties of that invoice, you can create a template that is specific for that type of invoice. Usually this means if it comes to a specific cost center, or if it's from some partner that is specific to the organization. And for that, in that template, you can define any number of validators that need to see the invoice and say this is a good invoice or it is not. The process, you can put in any number of the approval templates. You don't need to create every possibility of the process. You can limit some tasks for approval and it's usually done based on the amount. For a smaller amount, organization manager can just validate it. For bigger amounts, usually it goes to directors and boards and stuff like that. On top of that, we do have some exceptions, just to also not to have all kinds of templates in the system. You can request pre-approvals if you are, let's say, department manager, and something is as invoice is assigned to your cost, you can request approval from another person that may be made at cost, just to check if this invoice was appropriate. And it's done in runtime when needed, and you don't need to modify the process for that. After that, it goes to bookkeeping and archiving. What else can you modify inside application? So apart from these approval templates, you can modify cost center, companies, roles, and stuff like that. So as your organization grows, you just put in more metadata, define templates for that, and it's ready to run. You can use your roles, so you can have a generic approval templates, person who ordered something, their manager, their CEO. These roles are populated in runtime, so somebody can fill it out, and the process goes like that. More customization, you can have process setup based on document entry path. This is usually done for larger organization. If they have companies in several sites, several countries, then they have a specific setup for each company. So the process behaves in a specific manner. This is all done through the application, so no need for coding, changing, and it's all live. So you can just put it in, and the system just collects it and start behaving that way. That's accounts payable. Orders is pretty much the same. It has some extra features, so this is a process that precedes you getting the invoice. So you have a process from request generation, so anybody can just log into the application and said, I need a new tablet. And then it goes to his manager, director, or something like that, who can just see it, approve it, and if he approves it, then we have phases for vendor selection. So you get some offers from your vendors. Once you select the appropriate vendor, you create purchase order, and you get it from, and then with created purchase order, you can still validate it using the same system and invoice. Like if you are making a big purchase, it can go to hierarchy of people in the organization, and then just send it to vendor. So you can do all this and then have the information that this all has been validated. So once you get the invoice in accounts payable application, you can set up a process that says, if this was already validated, you don't need to approve it. Just one person should check it. So it saves time again. And it has all the usual stuff. You can create orders from templates from Microsoft Word and stuff like that. You can send them immediately by email, and something that is usual and most common for this process to go on. And the final application is SkyFlow BPM. It's for creating processes. This picture should be, slided, but okay. You can see this diagram in the background. So you can just draw the process you want to, how does it work? You have user activities. You can define forms to be populated by users, or just to be seen, or to be hidden. Then you have activities for creating documents, storing documents, sending them by email, or some usual stuff that you would find in a business process management. And once you define it, you just save it and deploy it, and it's ready. And the interface is similar to the existing applications, so users can easily be trained to use them, and you can just run it immediately and then have a feeling how does it goes, then maybe customize it, and that's it. There are a lot of things to say about this, but main thing, it's all automated. You have consoles and wizards for creating everything. It's all hot deployed, so you just make the changes and they are available in the application immediately. And also we had a discussion that in earlier, we are trying to provide this Sky database with some common processes. All processes are stored just as files that could be copied and transferred between the organizations, so you can have some common processes from our databases, just install them, run them, or customize them to your needs. If somebody remembers from the first slide, these were all applications. We did put a special highlight on client empowerment. So I got a slide on that. What does that mean? We want the client to be able to do most of the things relating the document and business process management by themselves. So there's no need for coding, there's no need for special services or stuff like that. So you just pay it for the usage of the application, and you can define everything by yourself. For some of those clients that are don't want to do that, it's still the wizards and controls that enables us to do them quickly for them. So we are talking about accounts payable for clients that they don't wish to enter templates by themselves. We just charge them an hour of work, so it's really cost efficient for them, and they keep changing the templates over and over through the year, and the cost is real low. So our goal was to set at least 2/3 or even more of the most common use cases that can be set up in the application itself. And then we also do provide some custom services to provide full range of BPM and other features. This means, I said that on previous slides, everything can be configured in the digital archives, and it process. It's all hot deployment, so you just click and go, and it's ready to be used. And just to put this all in perspective, I know it's maybe a lot of information. How does this works? I have a few use cases. For Doc Portal, so for creating digital archives. So as I said, the things you need to do is to create document classes, properties, how are they indexed, how are they archived, and then maybe do some custom searching and notification, but that's it. It's a small project that usually goes from a couple of weeks to a couple of months if you have some scanning of the existing paper documents, but it can be done fast. But what usually happens is you do one archive and then you do another archive for the existing clients, so you have a lot of archives, so this couple of weeks multiplies, and it's a lot of work in the end. So through our Doc Portal, we were able to reduce it. So I have two examples. One is for HDS, that's Hrvatsko društvo slagatelja. It's Croatian Collecting Society. They wanted to do an archive for their board members, so they would have all their board documents organized by sector. It should be a simple application, but we made it even simpler. We just defined the document classes with one root class, board documents. Then we have a hierarchy of classes below that that are specific to the function, IT, finance, and stuff like that. They all do have common properties. Most of them are dates regarding the signature, expiry, and stuff like that on the documents. So we enter that in the system. And we created an archiving rule for the application. So you can see how the rule is created. You can just select the folder in the repository and then just use the properties from that document class. And it's organized like this. And then when you get the document with these properties, system will create an archive in this manner. They would index all of their properties. Sometimes they want to hide it, sometimes they don't, but they decided to index them all. And the only customization we had was a little bit custom search. And that meant that the page had a different header. It didn't say doc portal, it said archive of the board members. And all this was done in 2 days. First day we set up all this scheme, okay, and the next day we perform the customization they needed. Even simpler project was production log archives. PPS Galekovic, maybe you have heard their commercials, usually on the sports. They are wood industry. Located in Zagreb. They have several companies on several locations, and they do have these production lines, and each of these lines have logs, and these logs need to be reviewed, so it would be easier just to have them in an electronic way available in the system. So what we did, we created an hierarchy of classes that would consist of a production site and production line. So when somebody picks up the class type, it would pick up the site and line immediately. There were no custom properties, and they would be archived in a special folder, production logs. Then they have 3 companies, and then production site, line, and the date of the document. So if you search upon this archive, you can just select which production site you want, or production line, or any of the components here, and you would get logs immediately from that day instantly in the system. And this was done in an hour. We had a meeting. They said we wanted to have this kind of archive. Okay, we said you have doc portal. We set it up, we clicked it up for them, and they began scanning immediately, and the problem was solved. So it can be as easy as this. And they were satisfied, of course. They didn't spend any money. That's the main. These are some simple, use cases for document management. On the process side, Ducat and Lactalis Group is one of our biggest clients. So they wanted to do automation of invoices, okay? So they selected our accounts payable solution some 7-8 years ago. Say, what are their targeted benefits? This is copied from their internal presentation. They want to do it much faster, reduce administrative work, standardize, and stuff like that. I'm not going to read all about that. So and they choose us to do a pilot for one department in the company, in the Ducat company. And that department was IT and finance, just to see in what way it would be to have this process in a digital way. So these are some of their conclusions. So in Croatia, they have distributing invoices on 11 locations, and each of the location there had a specific way of handling the invoice. This was very hard to review. They have reviews every year, a formal review. So in this way, they have solved it with custom workflows that behave in the same way and produce history logs in the same way. So it's easy to monitor it. Their average time before introduction of APGO was 9 days to validate an invoice. With this, it was 2.5 days. And 2.5 days means that usually people are not in front of the computer when they need to validate the invoice. They wait till night or the end of work just to click it if it's good or if it's not. They had a harmonized process from order, receipt, and invoice. As I said, this is most important for the review. And once they could see how the process worked, they actually reduced the number of validators of the invoice, because most of the managers didn't want to validate the invoice by itself. They just wanted to have the information that the invoice for their cost center has occurred, and it is in the system. And they can always do that by just using the search for their cost center. So once we did it for Ducat, we did it for everybody else in Croatia first, and then in the region. It became part of their standard portfolio, so every company that is part of the Lactalis Southeastern Europe uses this system. This means 13 companies in 6 countries. This is 2017 data. So all of them use them. It's 260 different templates for processing. Okay, some of the biggest companies like Ducat and Sombolet, who in Serbia have around 60-70 different templates. Some of the smaller, like Kim, have less than 10. So, but it all mounts up to 216 processes. Number of users is difficult to say because they have 2 Active Directory. Every user from Active Directory can log into the system, and if they need to approve the invoice, they can use the system. So it's probably a couple of thousand of users. 2 years ago, there were 5 million documents in the system, from which 1.3 are the invoices themselves. Everything other is orders or some accompanied material that would justify the invoice. And our system did a maximum of almost 500,000 in 2016, and that's really good for a single server installation that has the system, database, and file system, everything in its place. How fast did we go? So after Ducat we did Kim, okay, that's Karlovačka Industrija Mlijeka, okay, that's another company in that group. We entered the templates in the morning. I did it myself at a time, and that was around 8. At 10 they have education for their users, and education lasts for 2 hours, and after that they set up scanners and start using the system. So it was probably as easy as it comes. and they are, very satisfied. From then, we move from Croatia to all the other companies in the region. So I think if that's the time, if we have some more time, the thing I maybe skipped, it's about AWS. Okay, we are here about AWS. So DMS and BPM are commonly maybe associated with bigger organization. Bigger organization use them, but we try to bring it to the smaller customers, like PPS Galekovic and stuff like that. And when we created the platform, we plan to bring it to the AWS and to have cost efficient or something like that pricing for the customers. So all of these applications start from 25 euros per user per month, and most of that cost is related to AWS costs. So any smaller company with 5 to 10 employees in the management can use the system with a cost that is less than, let's say, external accounting or stuff like that. So even small companies can start using this kind of system, all of these features for low price, and when they move it on, just like in AWS, they just buy more resources, more users, and stuff like that. Also, what you can use, some people ask me that, is for piloting, You can just open an account, try something for a month or two, and then have a real information. Is that good for your company or not, or how it could be customized further for your needs. Any questions? Please.
I see you have many customers in Croatia, and what I often hear in Croatia as something against the cloud is I don't want them to see what I have, or things like I don't want anybody has control of my data. So what's your argument of getting people into the cloud?
First, if we do an on-premise installation, we usually maintain it. So we have access to that, okay? So it kind of opens up your visibility of the data for an external company. And it's the same on the cloud. This is the same infrastructure that we manage, okay? Just from that point of view. Another point of view is most of the companies uses Gmail or stuff like that. And all of their information goes through Gmail or through web, and it's exposed maybe in the same manner as is the installation on AWS. So apart from being somewhere else, the risk is not much different. And the best part is security is much better. If you have a server, especially in a smaller company, you usually have servers, and if somebody wants to steal your data, they would steal it easily. They would go log into network as a student and stuff like that, and it's easier to steal it that way than to steal it from the AWS, where we remove all the protocols and take care of stuff like that. So I think the security is much better, okay? And that's for getting the data. And for the, for the invoices, stuff like that, which is sensitive, I think, we do personally have all our invoices coming through the email. So I think that's the point where the risk is the highest in the process of getting the email. It's not about storing it in our own servers. So, but the thing is that maintenance usually costs, and we just calculate them for not only our work, but their backup administration. How much does it cost? And when they see it, how much does it cost when we move it to AWS? That's usually something that triggers them just to move it. It's cost reduction, you know. So I hope I did answer it in a way. So, and it's I think it's common now, you know. 7, 8 years ago, it was hard to tell anyone about putting their, especially these sensitive financial documents online. But it's not. Now it's kind of normal. But at least for our clients, we are discussing with Duca just to create an archive for them on the AWS because they have a lot of documents, a lot of legacy applications, and the administration costs a lot. And just they wanted to move away, and nobody has enough IT people. Maybe they can afford it, but they don't have IT people just to handle all that. So it's easier just to move it, regardless of the cost, just to keep it functional. So it's maybe not a direct way of answering your question, but all these things, costs, maintenance, low number of people are driving people to the cloud just to be able to function normally. It's the same for us. We did this all customization options for our clients because we cannot spend too much time with one client and customize everything for them. We give them this solution, we help them, okay, but you know, if we start developing custom solutions for each of them, there's just too much work, you know. So we are being able to give them the solution like this. It can be customized quickly. Most of this is out of the box. You just customize ERP connection and stuff like this, and you have a project ready in a month or a quarter or something like that. That's really soon. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is it lunch?
15 minutes ago.
15 minutes ago.
We didn't want to interrupt.
I'm sorry. Thank you for your time. If you do have any questions, feel free to talk to me for a coffee. Thank you.